talk. I think you have an excellent find in the form of the previous speaker, and I think the students reflect what the teacher is. Right? We could guess actually, me and Mahesh, that he must have been trained in Pune. So excellent. Anyway, coming to this new kid on the block, as I always do my disclosure that I am a researcher, advisor, etc., to almost every vaccine manufacturer. So why HPV vaccine? First of all, that's a question that parents ask you. And see this. This is the age standardized incidence rates of cervical cancer in the world as on 2020, and you can see here India is still quite red in color. More the red means more the disease burden. So next to Africa, we are still having a large burden of this disease. And in fact, if you see, almost 100% of cervical cancer are HPV related, the oncogenic type, but so also other cancers like vaginal, vulval, penile, anal, oropharyngeal, and in fact there is a study from Nordic country which says that even cancers like Hodgkin's can be remotely related to HPV, and people who have been HPV vaccinated, even those cancer incidence is much lesser than those who have not been vaccinated. So you definitely need HPV vaccine. I think it is the right of every girl and a woman to have this HPV vaccine given to her and her daughters. And I mean it as a man that we have all the fun, but the female who suffers and survives, I think that's not fair. We must give that vaccine. I am very happy that the government is going to introduce this vaccine in the national program very soon. Look at this. The CA cervix world over incidence is 13.3 per 100,000 women. In India it is 18, so it's even out of proportion. And if you look at the rates per 100,000, then they are escalating as the age advances of the woman. Not only that, look at the anal, in female, vulval, vaginal, and on the men's side, penile, anal, and oropharyngeal. Each one of them may not be as dramatic as 18, but still significant, 1 to 2 per 100,000. And all this is preventable if you have given them the correct vaccine. And what are the oncogenic HPV which lead to cervical cancer, which is the main focus for which we use this vaccine? You can see type 16 and 18 together in India is 83.2%. So even if you given the bivalent vaccine or the quadrivalent vaccine, you prevent 85% of the cervical cancer in women. Of course, you add the remaining 5 serotypes which are there in the MSD 9-valent vaccine, that will make it 98%. So irrespective of what you use some HPV vaccine so that you can prevent a lot of disease burden. So we had the bivalent HPV vaccine of GSK 16-18, but it didn't have the 6 and 11, which is equally important for benign warts. And you have the MSD's HPV-9, which has the 5 additional serotypes that I showed you. And now we have the new, of course the bivalent vaccine, as you know, is no more available, is being phased out from the entire world. So in fact, most of the countries which are using bivalent are shifting to now quadrivalent or nanovalent vaccine, and many countries are not able to shift because of the cost. So now you have a new vaccine. While this new vaccine may appear to be from Serum Institute of India, at least 15 different NGOs have been working together with Serum to make this vaccine for the entire world, because Serum is known to make vaccines which are extremely affordable. And as you know, the owner of the Serum was on record to say that he will probably supply this vaccine for the public health at rupees 250 per dose, which is like something which is unimaginable in today's time. So it is the same as the quadrivalent vaccine of MSD as far as the serotype is concerned, that is type 16, 18, 6 and 11. So why another HPV vaccine? So as I said, 90% of the girls have to be fully vaccinated with HPV vaccine by the age of 15 years. 70% of women are to be screened with a high performance test at 35 and at 45, if not every year or every 3 years. And I don't want to embarrass, but I want to ask the women present here, how many of you have undergone pap smear in last 3 years? Ask your question to yourself. And I see even not 100% hands going up, and you know that this is a dreaded disease. And 90% of women identified with cervical cancer should be diagnosed early so that they can be treated, because most of the patients come in India very late. And this is the WHO's goals, and see what is the reality. The countries which have high HPV burden in red are the ones which are not using the vaccine. The countries which don't have much HPV like USA, Europe, etc. are using HPV vaccine. And what is the reason? Lack of awareness for screening, lack of awareness about vaccination, hesitancy to take the vaccine, lack of cost-effective vaccine, I think that's the most important, and lack of national program. And now with the availability of the cost-effective vaccine, I'm sure you will have a better national program like it's going to start in our country. So coming to this new kid on the block, the serum's qHPV, and I think no data is published so far. So I have the privy to have the data on file, and I'll show you the data on file on behalf of serum. I'm sure this data will be published very soon. So basically it has the same content, 20 microgram of type 6, 40 each of 11 and 16, and 20 of again type 18. And this vaccine is available as 0.5 ml intramuscular use. What is available today is a 2-dose bulk, because that was made for national program. And as you know, initially the government of India refused to give commercial license to serum, saying that all that they will manufacture will go to the public health. But for some reason, suddenly they changed the idea, and by then serum was ready with this bivalent, 2-dose preparation, and now they will make 1-dose preparation, which is already in pipeline, and maybe in the next few months you will have the 1-dose preparation also there. But till then, you can use it 2-dose within 6 hours, so you can have 2 people from the same family or 2 different people, so have an HPV day, so they don't waste the vaccine and make full use of the vaccine. So it underwent phase 2 and phase 3 trial, and I'll show you that phase 2, phase 3 data. So phase 2 was initially to look at the safety and to see what type of study they should do to look at the immune response. The comparator vaccine, of course, was the qHPV of the MSD. So they had serum vaccine given to males between 9 to 14 years, serum vaccine given to female or girls between 9 to 14 years, and they were compared with the MSD vaccine given to females, and same way for the boys. So girls and boys of 9 to 14 years and 14 to 26 or 15 to 26 years, they received either a serum's vaccine or they received the MSD vaccine. Now remember, for male 15 to 26, serum vaccine, the Gardasil is not what you call licensed for use for males in India. So the males, both on the younger age and the older age, had to be compared to the female given Gardasil, because it's unethical. No permission is given for a vaccine to be given with there's no license in that given country. So you will see here everywhere the comparator arm is only females with Gardasil. Also here female with Gardasil. Okay, so what was the primary objective? To compare in girls 9 to 14 years 2 doses versus women 3 doses, and for women 3 doses of Gardasil we have efficacy data 9-year long term, 10-year long term, showing nearly 100% efficacy for the types which are there in the vaccine. Same way for the boys 9 to 14 years compared to the women 15 to 26 years 3 doses, and of course older women and men were given 3 doses, because you know it's 2 doses for 9 to 14 and 3 doses for 15 and above. So this vaccine is studied till 26 years, so the license is only till 26 years. Of course, you know Gardasil is licensed for till 45 years in various countries, including our country. Don't confuse between Gardasil and Gardasil 9. I am not talking Gardasil 9 at all. If there is any question on Gardasil 9, I can answer them. Alright, so what were the data? First of all, side effects. So 3 things was looked at: side effect, seroconversion, and titers. Side effect wise, you can see here whether the small children or girls or women, whether they receive the serum vaccine or they receive the MSD vaccine. You can see all the p values are not significant. So all the local side effects like erythema, pain, swelling, and all the systemic side effects like fever, nausea, vomiting, etc. was similar between the 2 vaccines. Same way for boys and men, whether you compare the CERVAVAC versus Gardasil for all the local and systemic side effects, again you can see here all the p values are not significant except vaccination site pain, which was actually lesser with CERVAVAC compared to Gardasil. So that is the significant advantage of this vaccine. There is little less reactogenic locally as compared to the MSD vaccine. But I think more important is it should also be working. It should be good immunologically. So you can see seroconversion rate. These are girls, boys, and MSD's vaccine. So these are children below 15 years. You can see 100% seroconversion, whether it is girls given HPV of serum, boys given HPV of serum, or the girls given the MSD's vaccine, and is 100% seroconversion. Older age group, whether it's women given serum's vaccine, men given serum vaccine, or the women given MSD's vaccine, again 100% seroconversion. Which means you give any vaccine to a child, a boy, a girl, or a boy, or a man, or a woman, 100% of them would have seroconversion, which is very significant. What about the titers? Now, I think this is the most important. So there are 2 different ways of looking at non-inferiority on immunological response. Let's say for pneumococcal vaccine, we used to compare the lower bound confidence intervals of the titers of the new vaccine versus old vaccine. That is known as the ratio of the titers. The lower bound confidence interval, like say here it is 1.66. This should not be below 0.5 as per WHO is concerned, or not below 0.67 as far as studies of MSD's vaccines are concerned. So MSD has taken 0.67 as its own benchmark. WHO says 0.5 also is okay for a new vaccine, which means the new vaccine assures you that it will have at least half the titers of what is there with the current vaccine, which is the MSD vaccine. So this is girls 9 to 14 years 2 doses versus women receiving Gardasil, and you can see here the titer ratios are all above 1, which means they are in favor of CERVAVAC compared to Gardasil. That is expected because young girls always have better immune response than the older women. What about the boys? You can see the same thing. The ratios are all above 1. So again, because young boys also have better immune response than the older women. And we know for the older women between 15 to 26 years, the efficacy is nearly 100% for 10 years. And with the young girls and young boys given CERVAVAC, having titers which are even more than the women, that means you are going to have a similar efficacy in the young girls and the young boys. That is the primary focus for you and me pediatricians, because we are going to immunize children between 9, 10, 11, 12. Very rarely you are going to immunize anyone above 18 years, right? Now, what about the elder, means anyone above 16? So this is 16 to 26 women receiving CERVAVAC 3 doses and 16 to 26 women receiving Gardasil 3 doses. And you can see here the titer ratio should be above 0.5. So for type 6 it is 0.7 minimum, that is passed. This 111 is just touching 0.5, and again rest 2 are above 0.5. So for 3 out of 4 serotype, and especially for the oncogenic 16 and 18, it is satisfying the criteria of WHO of above 0.5 the lower bound interval. And actual titer 1000 for higher after vaccine who have received CERVAVAC as compared to those which was the baseline titer. And same for the men, you can see here, for except for 111, all the other 3 serotype are having titer cutoff above 0.5, and again all the subjects had more than 1000-fold rise in titers compared to the baseline. So the oncogenic viruses have passed the 0.5 test. One virus 11 is 0.5, almost touching, but yet the titers are more than 1000-fold as compared to the baseline. Now, can titers predict efficacy? And I think that is the basic question. Then that will tell you whether a vaccine with more efficacy is better than a vaccine with, a vaccine with more titers is more efficacious than a vaccine with less titers. So, let's suppose you need to eat meal and you need 100 rupees for a thali, whether you have 1000 rupees or 500 rupees or 10,000 rupees, it won't matter so far as you get your thali. I think that's the equivalent of the titer that we are talking about. And I'll show you 2 things which are very important to understand. First thing is, this is a study done on the HPV MSD's Gardasil HPV4 long-term titers for all the 4 serotypes. You can see this is 6, 11, 16 and 18. And concentrate on 18, which is in this D on the right bottom. And you can see here the titers drop drastically within 2 years of the last dose of the vaccine. When they receive a 4th dose, as was done in that study, you can see the titers jump. So that means there is boostability, but the actual titers are lower, much lower. They are almost touching the same as what was seen in the placebo arm. And yet, if you look at the efficacy, so and more than the titers, you can see seroconversion. 40% of the vaccinees had lost seroconversion by 4 years. So if the titers were important and seroconversion was important, you would expect that the type 18 should not work beyond 4 years. Whereas the data actually shows that the efficacy was 100% even when the titers had fallen to almost baseline and the seroconversion dropped to 60% as compared to after the 3rd dose. So titers in HPV may not matter. Titers may matter in pneumococcal because you are worried about carrier state, you are worried about indirect immunity, you are worried about non-invasive pneumococcal otitis which need more titers. In HPV, that probably does not matter. And I think that is further exemplified by an excellent study done in India. And I think that is a path-breaking study which makes WHO and many world bodies to recommend 1 dose of HPV for young boys and girls and just 2 doses of HPV for older women and women. And that is the study which was done by the Dr. Basu's group. What happened was, as you know, there was a feasibility trial happening with Cervarix, with the GSK's vaccine, and Gardasil in Gujarat and in Andhra Pradesh, where the girls who were staying in hostels were given vaccine and they were seen for feasibility, side effect, etc., tolerance. Now there occurred 7 deaths, 4 in Gujarat and 3 in Hyderabad. 6 of the deaths were either snake bite, drowning, poisoning, dengue, etc. 1 death was some hemorrhagic fever. But because the deaths happened, there was a lot of hue and cry, and these trials were all stopped. All trials of Gardasil and Cervarix were stopped in the country. That is the time when this Dr. Basu's group was doing a trial with HPV vaccine of MSD, 1 versus 2 versus 3 dose. Now when this trial stopped, what happened? There were a lot of people who received only 1 dose. There are a lot of people who received only 2 doses, and there are a lot of people who received actually 3rd dose. And the trial stopped, so they converted it into cohort study, continued to follow them up for 10 years after that to look at the efficacy of the vaccine. So now we have a beautiful default trial, which was actually originally an efficacy trial, to a cohort trial by default of 1 versus 2 versus 3. And 1 dose efficacy was the same as 2 dose efficacy, was the same as 3 dose efficacy. Now this makes the WHO to conduct 1 more trial upfront. This was retrospective. Prospective in Kenya, which actually showed the same thing, that 1 dose is same as 2 doses is same as 3 doses. So probably we are giving too many doses of HPV vaccine. Now look at the titers with 1 dose. The green bar is the titer with 3 doses, and the blue bar is the titer with 1 dose in this study for 6, 11, 16, 18. And you can see here the blue bar is far lesser as compared to 3 doses as expected. So what are the titers with this 1 dose? They are just 2 to 4 fold higher than the baseline, and yet the efficacy was 100% at 9 years. What is the titer you achieve with this new vaccine? 1000 fold higher than the baseline. So I think this is one vaccine where we should not worry about titers, seroconversion. So far as there is seroconversion once in your life and you are immunocompetent, this vaccine will work 100% for almost lifelong. So we haven't ascertained as yet the need of booster. Maybe after 20, 25, 30 years, if there are breakthrough, we may ask for a booster that time, and that will be true for all HPV vaccine. But the current vaccine, as on today, we use them as the required doses. So this is a beautiful editorial in the Lancet which has talked about the new vaccine CERVAVAC from Serum, and he says that probably this is a silver bullet which will empower a lot of countries in Asia which are yet not able to start vaccination against HPV because of the cost constraint, and maybe this vaccine will fill the gap because this is going to be an extremely cost-effective vaccine in the public health. So just to summarize, this new vaccine is a gender-neutral vaccine that provides equal opportunity in women and men. It's immunologically non-inferior to existing HPV of MSD by WHO criteria, and is extremely cost-effective. The commercial cost is 2,000 rupees per dose today, as compared to 3,500 of the MSD vaccine. In the public health, of course, is pledged to be given as simple as $2 or $3 per dose. So I am sure this vaccine is going to change the life of our women of the country who deserve much more than what they are deserving today. Well, thank you very much. Is there any questions?
Sir, I would like to ask a question. So what is your final answer on how you should go about with HPV vaccination, routine in our pediatric practice?
Correct. So first of all, HPV vaccine must be there in your vaccination schedule, which is printed on your file. IHP also says to give it routinely. Number 2, encourage your patients to take it. Now, if they are not able to afford HPV-9, which is the best vaccine, I am making no doubt in anyone's mind that today, if someone can afford HPV-9, give HPV-9. But it's extremely expensive. 10,500 to 11,000 is the MRP. Very few can afford to take it. Then the next is to give them the current other vaccine. So you have 2 choice. MSD is 4-valent and Serum 4-valent. Obviously, if they are immunologically similar, then 1, because it's our own vaccine, and 2 is half the cost. It would make sense to use that vaccine, provided you have now a single dose available someday, or you have 2 patients on the same day, so that you don't waste the vaccine. But bottom line is use some HPV vaccine. What I suggest is that if someone cannot afford all the 3 doses, give them 2 doses. Someone cannot afford 2 doses, give them 1 dose. But at least give some HPV vaccine. That will, scientifically there is no doubt that 1 dose will work for life. If you want practically, etc., give as many as the patient can afford. If you can afford all the 3, give it. If the patient can afford 2, give 2, but at least give 1 dose. Why they don't give it to boys? Boys, you must give it for benign warts, penile cancer, anal cancer, orophageal cancer, which are also seen in men, of course. And of course, that's a distant like Hodgkin's. The other thing, if a couple is vaccinated, then the chances of prevention of HPV in the woman is much more than only one of them being vaccinated. That's the reason why this is a gender-neutral vaccine and to be given both to the boys and the women. And the question that comes, if you give it 9 years, will it prevent cancer at 59? The answer is, as of today, we know it prevents cancer for 11 years. And to me, immunologically, any vaccine prevents a disease for 10 years is almost lifelong.
Sir, one more question. There are so many who have taken quadrivalent.
Yes.
Now we have 9 valent.
Yes.
So in the family only it happens that we are recommending 9 valent.
Right.
Is there any booster is required? Those who
Correct. So those who have taken HPV4 in past or HPV2 of GSK in past, and now they know that 9 valent is available and they can afford, then you can give them at least 2 doses, if not 3 doses of HPV9. And there is study to show that those who have received HPV4 in past, when started giving HPV9 after 1 year after the last dose, the vaccine works excellently for the common serotype as well as for the additional serotype. And there I would use at least 2 doses because we know 2 doses work in older women and older girls, because these are going to be older women and older girls. Now the question is, someone has taken 1 dose of HPV and wants to switch to HPV9. You need not restart. You can continue with whatever is left by giving the additional doses of the HPV9. So 1 year is minimum as per the studies that are available.
So one more question.
Yes.
So for boys, what would be the protocol for pediatricians? And for anal warts and penile cancer, this vaccine will be for prevention, right?
Yes.
So how do you go about with
there is no
prevention?
therapeutic vaccine as of today for HPV. All are preventive.
So at what age?
So 9 to 16 years.
Yeah.
So 9 to 16 years boys will take 2 doses of this current vaccine. 9 to 14 years will take 2 doses of current vaccine, and 15 to 26 will take 3 doses. But as per WHO, 1 dose is enough between 9 to 14 years and 2 doses are enough between 15 to 26 years. Thank you.
Give 1 dose of HPV9 if possible.
Absolutely.
That should give better response to the get what is happening.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for wonderful.